What's up, Yu-Gi-Oh people? I am silverwolve20, and welcome to the first episode of Retro Decks with silverwolve20, aka the old fuck of the group. This is Fuck That Konami, and I decided to do something a little bit different here. Jacob did a video showing you one of his non-meta decks, which, yeah, it's interesting, but what about for fans of the older generations who wanted to see something that wasn't exactly used that often, but could have worked at that time that GX was out? So what I decided to do is I decided to kind of show you a deck that I used to run in high school when it was still the first two gens of Yu-Gi-Oh! And a lot of the kick-ass cards that are out now weren't out back then. So basically the limitations I put on myself was A, no cards that came out from 5Ds on, and 2, it had to be a non-meta deck. So, as I'll show you in a moment, the deck I decided to create is, no, it's not an Exodia deck. That's actually the default because I decided to fuck around. But it is called the Midget Offensive, aka a deck that I used to run in high school, slightly modified with the new cards that are available on Dueling Network that I didn't have in real life. But the basic premise is the same. Just basically wreck stuff with high attack point monsters that are 3 stars or below. That is the key requirement. No monsters that were 4 stars, except for one little defensive monster called Soul Tiger, who has a beastly 2100 defense. He's the only level 4 in this deck, and he's basically just there to wall stuff, in the early game if I get him. But with that being said, I'm going to show you this deck list, and yes, by today's standards, this is a shit deck, but back then, it worked fairly well for me. So, first things first, Jerry Beans, man. I love the 3 normal monsters that I have in this deck were all monsters that I just loved because they were 3 stars, but they could still kick ass. And Jerry Beans, man, is the strongest of the 3. 1750 attack. Not too impressive by today's standards in terms of a beat stick, but you know what? For 3 stars, that's pretty damn impressive. And plus, he's a bean carrying a sword. You can't really get more awesome than that. Next up, the Food of Dark World, known as Mad Lobster. I love this card. It was another one of my favorite monsters to use back in the day. Beastly 1700 attack, water, can fuck shit up with its claws. You gotta love it, to quote Booker T. And my favorite of the 3, in terms of appearance, Sonic Duck. It's a duck who walks like the Flash and has a pail on its head. How is that not awesome? I mean, come on. Soul Tiger, I explained before, he's the defensive monster of this deck. And he's basically designed to fend off the 1900 attack beat sticks that were around during that time, like Gemini Elf and stuff like that. And we come to Des Koala, whose sole purpose is to inflict burn damage to make it easier for my attacking monsters to just go on through and destroy the opponent's life points, so that they don't have to do as much work. And plus, 1800 is a decent defense, so it could probably survive a hit depending on what's out on the field. Next we come to the Swarm cards. Swarm of Locusts and Swarm of Scarabs. Both of two of the trademark midgets that I use that were not normal monsters. For the simple reason of they have the ability to reset themselves every turn, and when they're flipped, they get to destroy either a monster or a spell or trap on the opponent's side of the field, making them a great way to thin out your opponent's side of the field and give you card advantage as long as you're able to keep them alive. The problem is that they don't have the best attack and defense in the world. They both have 500 and 1,000, but depending on which swarm it is, either its attack will be 1,000, like in Locust's case, or the attack will be 500 in Scarab's case. But either way, the stat that isn't 500 is 1,000. Like Locust has 500 defense, Swarm is 500 attack. And that's pretty much all I gotta say about them. And now we come to the key monster of the deck. And the reason why I call this midget offensive. Ultimate Baseball Kid. My favorite card in all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that I owned. He just looks like a badass, holding that spiked baseball bat ready to fuck shit up. 500 attack and 1,000 defense. He doesn't look that strong, but he has one hell of an ability. This card gains 1,000 attack for each other fire monster on the field. Now, you may notice in my deck that I don't exactly have any fire monsters other than Ultimate Baseball Kid, so you're probably wondering, how the fuck does that work? How are you going to get boosts for a Baseball Kid so that he can wreck stuff? Well, that I'll explain in a minute. But basically, if all 5 of my monsters are fire types, that's an automatic 5,500 per Baseball Kid that's out on the field, which is amazing. So, and there was one monster that I forgot to mention. Chaos Necromancer. His stats are 0/0, 1 star, and his ability is, as you can read, this card, the attack of this card becomes the number of monsters in your graveyard times 300. I have 19 other monsters aside from him. If I bring him out late game, 10 monsters equals 3,000 attack. 19, well, that's 5,700. That's almost 6,000 right there, making it an incredible late game monster that I'm not sure Bottomless will work on it since its original attack and defense is 0. So it makes it good to get around that. My spells and traps. Axe of Despair, standard equip card. Equip it to a monster, its attack increases by 1,000. Basically, it's power up one of the normal monsters so that they can fuck shit up. Heavy Storm, a last resort card that will destroy all of the spell and traps in the field. You all know how it works. But Silver, you have a lot of spells and traps in your deck. Why would you run Heavy Storm? Well, for the scenario of, I don't have any spells or traps on the field and they do, I can try to eliminate their spells and traps and make it easier for my monsters to attack. It's kind of a defensive card in my deck, in a way. Of course, the traditional level limit area B, you know how it works. Level 4 or higher, go to defense and stay there as long as it's on the field. Since none of my monsters except for Soul Tiger are level 4 or higher, I don't have to worry about having my monsters switched, but they will. Except for Soul Tiger, and honestly, Soul Tiger needs to stay in defense. It should only go into attack mode if you're going to embarrass somebody by attacking directly with it. Which I have done before, and it was pretty lolsy. Lightning Vortex, I don't think I need to explain that one. Monster Reborn, I don't need to explain that either. And Mystical Space Typhoon, I definitely don't need to explain that. Y'all should already know what those 3 do, and if you don't, well, you're either new to the game or you're just trolling. On to the traps. Remember how I said before that Ultimate Baseball Kid is my trump card, or the strongest monster in my deck? Well, this trap is the reason why. DNA Transplant. It lets you switch the attribute of all face-up monsters on the field to the attribute of your choice. In my case, I would switch it to fire. So all of my face-up monsters become fire, and all of the opponent's face-up monsters become fire, thus making Baseball Kid incredibly strong if the opponent has a lot of monsters in the field too, as a result of Gravity Bind or Level Limit Area B on the field. Gravity Bind, same as Level Limit, just that they don't get switched to defense, but level 4 or higher cannot attack. Magic Cylinder, I don't think I really need to explain that one, in that it is a good card all around. Mirror Force, Negate Attack, and Solemn Judgment, I don't need to explain either. They're defensive cards. Threatening Roar is another defensive card that will allow you to not get attacked that turn. If for some reason I don't have Level Limit or Gravity Bind on the field, that's a good defense. And then we come to probably the best trap in my deck for initiating a quick kill. Meteor Rain. This old school trap allows you to inflict pierce damage for one turn. Baseball Kid can have insane amounts of attack with DNA Transplant on the field. Meteor Rain will let you pierce through defenses, so all those level 4 or higher monsters that will switch to defense mode, if they can't stand up to Baseball Kid's attack, the opponent's taking pierce damage, and up to 9,500 attack on a Baseball Kid, that's gonna hurt a lot. I think I've already covered the standard strategies for this deck, but I'll say it real quick. Baseball Kid plus DNA Transplant equals Rape if you have other monsters in the field. The Swarms to thin out the opponent's field, early game or whatever. Desquala for some quick damage. Necromancer as a late game destroyer. Gravity Bind or Level Limit to cancel out attacks. Space Typhoon just as defense, and you should know the rest. Will this deck work by today's standards? Probably not. This deck would be outclassed by any other kind of burn deck imaginable. But this was pretty much the deck I ran in high school, and I loved it. I actually did really well in a few tournaments, even winning one in my high school. So, the deck was okay, I would imagine. But I will come up with more decks in the future, and hopefully you will enjoy seeing the randomness that Silver can create with a few limitations on his side. Since Gen 1 and Gen 2 are the two series that I'm most familiar with, it'll be fun for me to create decks for this site. And if you guys want to use this deck, I got no problem with you doing it, although I doubt you will, since by today's standards this deck sucks, since there's no extra deck, no side deck, and all the monsters are trash by today's standards. But, for fun duels, it could work. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy Fuck That Konami, our new channel, and I am silverwolve20. I'll see you guys later. Peace.